Welcome to Voodoo Whiskey Gaming. Since The Witcher 3 just came out and there's been a bit of a fuss regarding the fact that it doesn't look as good as it was advertised, I figured I'd talk about companies and the downgrading of graphics. Now, companies use a couple of tricks to do this. They either make a cutscene that's disguised as gameplay, or they make an in-engine trailer which shows what the engine's capable of, but not necessarily what the gameplay will look like. Now, we've seen this prior to The Witcher 3 with games like Aliens Colonial Marines, Dark Souls 2, Watch Dogs, and Killzone 3. And of course, the goal of the trailers for all those games was to get us flabbergasted, going, oh wow, I need to own this game, and then when we bought them, we were kinda disappointed with the visuals. The Witcher 3, Dark Souls 2, and Watch Dogs all used in-engine footage for their trailers, and all that really does is show us what the engine is capable of. That's not the gameplay. The engine can do all those really cool things they show us, but it's in very specific circumstances. And that's what they show us in the trailer, is those specific circumstances. They don't show us how the engine's actually going to run in gameplay, which has to handle a lot of different variables, and most PCs and most consoles can't handle that. Only the really top tier PCs can handle some of that stuff. While I don't necessarily think that should be held against the games, I do think it detracts from them, and I do think it harms the relationship between the developers and the consumers. Now, there are people who have done worse things like Guerrilla Games and their first trailer for Killzone 3, which was nothing more than a cutscene, but it was disguised to look like gameplay footage. Now, they did later come out and say, well, that wasn't actual gameplay footage, obviously, but it was what we were shooting for. It's what we wanted our game to look and play like. Problem is, that trailer wasn't marketed as a goal. It was marketed as what the game will be. And I think we can all agree the worst offender in this was Aliens Colonial Marines. Now, I've heard that they did in-engine footage, but I've also heard that they were just cutscenes. I haven't done any in-depth research into that because I'm not actually a journalist, so not really my job. Admittedly, Aliens Colonial Marines development was a shit show, but that's no excuse for what they did. We're talking about a game that when it came out, it looked more like a PS2 game when they claimed it was going to look like a high-end PC game while running on a PS3 or Xbox 360. Their trailers were so misleading that people filed a false advertising lawsuit against Sega and Gearbox. And while I kind of understand it in the case of Aliens Colonial Marines, I do think it's a super slippery slope because you could see other developers getting sued because their games simply don't live up to the hype the trailers create for them. We as consumers have to remember that developers and publishers are companies at the end of the day. And the goal of all companies is to earn money. In the case of video games, they need to get us going, oh my gosh, this is going to be the greatest game ever, I have to buy it! So that we go out and buy it. Now, they're willing to be fairly dishonest in order to get that to happen. For this to actually change, that's all on the developers and publishers. They need to be more transparent. They need to show us actual gameplay footage, not in-engine footage designed to look like gameplay footage. We need the truth. We need real gameplay so that we can judge as consumers what we want to pay for. Since that's not likely to change, I think we as consumers just need to get smarter, and by smarter, I actually mean far more skeptical. We need to sit there and go, hey, that camera angle's kinda sketchy. I don't know about it. It might be in-engine footage. Point being, we need to look more closely so that we're not surprised when it turns out that that was in-engine footage and not actual gameplay footage. Now, all that having been said, I do love those great cutscenes. I just don't like to be sold gameplay footage when it's not actually gameplay footage. Well, that's all I've got. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed the video, please hit that like button, and if you like what I'm doing in general, please subscribe. Have a good one.